So welcome everyone to this first JJIF webinar. We are very happy to start this series. We have a very exciting series ahead. The first webinar that we have today, you already see, is the new Jiu-Jitsu fighting rules starting from January on. And our speaker is Patrick Tremel from Austria. He's a World A referee since, I don't know how many years, quite a while already. He has a third dan in Jiu-Jitsu. And yeah, he will now for 45 minutes give us an introduction in the new rules. You are all muted. This is because we also record this meeting and later distribute it. So for those that cannot make it, they can later watch the video. And then after 45 minutes, we will unmute you and also stop the recording and have a discussion. So Patrick, the floor is yours. Thanks a lot. And I'm looking forward to learn something about the new rules.
So hello and welcome to everyone, also from my side. Yeah, I would say let's get right into it. I've done with my colleagues a review and reboot, so to say, of the fighting rules. First and foremost, what will jump out very much is that we have updated the format and structure. I don't want to say too much about it because there is not much to say about it. It looks different, period. One thing I would like to point out that we have tried to change the language to gender neutral terms. So if you come across any non-gender neutral terms, you're welcome to point that out in the rules. I know for many people it doesn't make a difference, but for some people it makes a great deal of difference. So that's why I try to adhere to gender neutral terms as much as possible. We also embedded the rules for underage athletes, or at least what we have so far. I've tried to get input from coaches and other referees, referees from other nations to get the most common sense of what we have for underage rules. So any text you find in cursive, that only applies to underage athletes. So not only underage, but under 16 and younger. The underage athletes of U18 and U21 do have the adult rules. I don't want to go into detail on everything, because sometimes there are no changes, no factual changes. We have like the first 5 sections of the rule book, the first 5 headings. There is no changes, but I want to remind everyone that some rules are in the sporting code. So they are also stated within the rules, but they are more explicitly stated in the sporting code. So for example, for section 1, where we have the appearance and the white gi, that is also mentioned in the appendix and the sporting code. This rule has existed for, I don't know how old the sporting code is, where the rules for the gi and how long it has to be, and how much room it has to give for grips. This rule is not new, even though it was for Jiu-Jitsu fighting for the first time enforced very strictly at the World Championship. This rule has existed for at least 5 years. So just a reminder that if you might think you come across something new in the first 5 sections, it is probably nothing new. It is probably a rule that has either existed only in the sporting code so far, and we tried to give you a hint to look it up in the fighting rules now. So if you come across something new and you read it and I'm not sure this must be a change, and it's in the first part of the rules, it's most likely, or it is for sure not a factual change. So the rules do not have changed, but maybe it's something you didn't know because it was in the sporting code, which is for all parts of the rules that apply to all disciplines. Like, for example, the gi, because the gi is the same, has the same rules for fighting, for duo, for show, for contact. It's the same rules in all the disciplines. So we only make a reference to it in the fighting rules that you can find it in the sporting code. With that being said, I will go right into part 1, where we have some bigger changes. So the Atemi criteria, we went from 4 to 3. Criteria 1, it must an Atemi must touch the opponent, but not harder than light contact. It must be applied with hikite, hikiashi, and it must be dealt with good dynamic balance and control. This is nothing new. The only change is that an Atemi having to be unblocked is now not part of the 3 Atemi criteria, but it is part of the scores. With the scores, there's also one big change. There's a 3-point ippon. It is awarded for a kick to the head that satisfies all the 3 criteria I mentioned before and is not blocked by the opponent. So being an Atemi being blocked or not blocked is part of the scores. So ippons always have to be unblocked and always have to fulfill all criteria. For kicks to the head, there is a 3-point ippon, and for any other techniques, kicks to the body or punches to the head or the body that are unblocked and satisfy all 3 criteria, there is a 2-point ippon. Vasari is for all Atemi techniques that satisfy all criteria but are partially blocked, or unblocked Atemi that satisfies 2 out of the 3 criteria. So for an unblocked punch that is not in perfect balance, it's Vasari. An unblocked Atemi that is not applied with hikite or hikiashi is Vasari. What does this mean for the engagements? To put one thing up front, we had a mistake with the rules. There was a version uploaded that was meant to be for the coaches and the referees for changes to vote on, and we uploaded the wrong version at first. This is the correct version. There can be only one technique only one technique scored per engagement, and the priority on which technique should be scored is first the first ippon technique performed. If there is no ippon technique or only ippon techniques that are at the same time, Aiuchi, then the first Vasari technique that is not at the same time as another Vasari technique will be scored. And for all intents and purposes concerning engagements, the 3-point or 2-point doesn't matter. It's only ippon or not ippon. If it is an ippon and it's 3 points, then you give the 3-point ippon, but a 3-point ippon does not override a 2-point ippon. I've summarized this on this slide. So an unblocked punch, which is followed up from red, which is followed up by an unblocked kick to the head by blue, is still an ippon 2 points. An unblocked kick to the head, followed up by an unblocked punch from blue, is ippon 3 points. And if they are Iuchi at the same time, no score. For part 2, we have ippon 3 points awarded for submissions that for submission holds that force the opponent to tap, be it verbal or non-verbal, or by clapping. These techniques are forbidden for under 16 and younger. And yeah, if they are, no, sorry, this is correct. No, sorry, this is already part 3. This is already part 3. It is the same in part 2 with the submissions, except they are not allowed for the under 16. So I'm very sorry, there's a mistake on this slide. It's I forgot to put it in for part 2 because the only change is that the submission is now worth 3 points. Very sorry, mistake on my part. For part 3, the ippon 3 points is the same as it always has been, except for the U16 and younger. The referee has to stop the match if the submission is executed in a technically correct way. And leg locks of any kind are not allowed for the U16 and younger. Also, the osekomi and ippon and wasari for osekomi have not changed. On what is osekomi and what is not osekomi, there are no changes, only clarifications. I admit that the previous versions of the rulebook did leave some gray areas and were not quite crystal clear on what is regarded as osekomi and what is not. I hope we made progress on that front and clarified some things that were viewed differently in the past. There was some disagreement because there was a formulation that an athlete that is in a submission hold cannot get osekomi. And this previously referred to the athlete being trapped in a submission hold, not the one executing it. The person executing a submission hold, if he is controlling the uke's upper body, will always be regarded as a submission hold, as you can see in the top 2 pictures. This is what was always meant in the rules. So if someone executed the submission hold and also controlled the uke's upper body, this and was in a top position, then this is regarded as osekomi. The bottom row, these are not osekomis because the person executing the submission hold is on the bottom. So the person trapped in a submission hold cannot have osekomi announced for them. In this case, the red fighter cannot have osekomi announced for her because she is trapped in a submission hold, in a stranglehold. And blue clearly cannot have an osekomi announced for her because she's on the bottom. Same for the picture on the right. You have blue on the bottom executing a triangle, but is, as I said, on the bottom. So there is no possibility to gain an osekomi announced. The biggest change in general is how the penalties work. In the generalities or the general terms on what changed with the penalties is that Jui is now 3 points. 3 wasaris are awarded to the opponent for a Jui, and 6 penalty points make up 1 Hansukumake. So as was before, 2 Juis are Hansukumake because 2 times 3 is 6. 3 Shidos plus 1 Jui make up Hansukumake, but also 6 Shidos. And anything that is more than 3 Shidos and a Jui also make up Hansukumake. So we've noticed that the athletes have become quite adept at working around penalties to attain favorable positions, playing around, going out, pushing out, breaking grips, passivity, and whatnot, and to stem the Shido flood a little bit and focus on more technical fights and force everyone into more technical fights and keep the strategizing to a little bit less. Jui will be 3 points to attain for very heavy strategizing or for very brutal fouls. And the Hansukumake with 6 accumulated penalty points also to keep it more technical and less tactical. We've differentiated the direct Hansukumake between disciplinary and technical Hansukumake. Disciplinary Hansukumake always leads to dismissal from the tournament. So this is what was formerly referred to as unsportsmanlike behavior. During the fight, this is a disciplinary Hansukumake. Has the same effect. You will be disqualified from the tournament with all records deleted. There will be no world ranking list points scored. There will be no entry of you in the tournament, and other people will move up. So if you are disqualified, other people will move up in the qualification. Outside the fight, this is still unsportsmanlike behavior, so it doesn't matter if it is announced during the fight or after the fight. And technical Hansukumake is either a Hansukumake by addition of 6 penalty points, or if you have techniques executed that are not allowed. 6 Shido is equivalent to, I have a question in the chat, 6 Shido equals 2 Jui equals Hansukumake. Yes and no. It's, you don't necessarily get 2 Juis by committing 6 Shidos, but you're out for Hansukumake. So you can have 2 Shidos for grip and punch, 2 Shidos for going out, and 2 Shidos for passivity, and it's still Hansukumake. But you didn't get a single Jui, but they are all worth 6 points, and with 6 points, you're out. Yes, exactly. It doesn't matter what kind of Shido, 3 Shido plus 1 Jui is DQ. So as soon as you reach 6 points that of penalties you have committed, it doesn't matter in which way, you are DQ'd. This is not a change, but a reminder. For passivity, there is an exception rule. It was formerly in a footnote. Now it's on the page, and I've seen it not given very much in the past and discussed a lot. But I want to remind everyone that this exception exists, and we very much like to see these exceptions because those are always exciting actions. So for everyone who doesn't know, it is allowed to commit passivity in favor of attacking. So if your opponent is too close and on Hashime, you immediately shoot in and take down the opponent, that's an exception to the passivity part 1. because you are allowed one exception to passivity part 1. And then the referee should not stop the fight, give the point, and have the action continue because there was an attack. So if you create an attack, even if it's defended, you are allowed to ignore the passivity rule. The passivity rule cannot be ignored if you instantly go to part 2, but you don't immediately follow it up by an attack. So you cannot skip part 1, take a grip, and then just slowly work your way into an attack. No. For the exception rule to apply, there must be immediate action. So opponent kicks, you catch the kick, and then you apply a throw. The opponent is too close, stepping in too close, you shoot the opponent, apply Morotogari, double leg takedown, exception applies. Opponent comes too close, you just take a grip and hold the grip and work your way into whatever. Exception doesn't apply because you did not immediately go into an attack. This is just a small reminder because I've seen in the past that this knowledge did not get to everyone. So be reminded there is an exception to passivity. We have grouped some penalties together. So there are less signs for all the referees and maybe also the fighters and coaches. Please check out the last appendix. There are the referee signs. There are now fewer of them because we merged some of the groups. Every penalty should now have a group where it belongs to and a sign where it belongs to. So forbidden actions are actions after Sonomama or Mate, and these are unconscious actions, like you didn't hear the referee and continued fighting. So the referee has to tell you a second time, Sonomama, stop the fight, or Mate, stop the fight. I will come to deliberate actions after Sonomama in a little while, but for now, apply the forbidden actions, which are Shido, are applying Artemis to the legs. That was already in this group, applying locks to fingers or toes, and putting your hand or foot in the opponent's face in part 2 or part 3. What is not in this group anymore is stretching the legs while in a guard position. For adults, this is now fully allowed. For under 16 and younger, it is Chewy. So to reiterate, Chewy give now 3 Vasari to the opponent. And we have some additions to disregarding referee instructions. We added deliberate attempts to attain a better grip or position during Sonomama. So if the referee sees an athlete creeping up the lapel and getting a better and better grip, this is Chewy. This is 3 points to the opponent. If the athlete tries to get closer and moves the foot step by step closer, this is also deliberate attempt to attain a better grip or position. So these are severely punished and are Chewy. They are not Shido, they are Chewy. Shido is they didn't hear and they pushed a little, or the hall is very loud. You didn't immediately get the Sonomama command. That is Shido. But deliberate attempts to gain an advantage, those are Chewy. Unnecessary remarks, you can debate if this is something new or something that was implied or was always implied. Dismissive gestures for disapproval of scoring or anything else. These are now Chewy. So if the athlete is going like this or like this is a Ju-Jitsu. Dangerous techniques, this is a new group. This includes all technical penalties on Ju-Jitsu level. So hard contact, straight to the head, uncontrolled technique, throwing out, throwing in a hard way, throwing, making a throw, forcing the opponent to the head. Why? Why we did this? The techniques are very distinct. So there is not much to discuss with the athletes. You can, if it's a lower level of competition, you can always tell the athletes, talk to the athletes. On a higher level competition, the athletes very well know what they did wrong, and you do not need to educate them on it. And if they don't know, they're in the wrong place at a world championship or a European championship. And there are not so many actions that they clearly stand out. So we have one sign for it, one penalty for it, and it doesn't matter in terms of disregard, because you don't accumulate 3 or 4 or 5 of them, because at the second time you're out. For the under 16, we added a temis that touched the head of the opponent. So since they're not allowed to touch the head at all, this would be equivalent to hard contact. Performing locks or strangulations in part 2 is also a Ju-Jitsu, and compressing the opponent's kidneys or ribs in the guard position. This is under 16 and younger. For adults, all of this is allowed. Then we have the Hansoku-make penalties, where I already described. We have them differentiated. Yes, I can review the slide with the engagements later when we're done. We're about done, so then we can go into questions. And I can review the slide later. For the severe disciplinary fouls, any form of unsportsmanlike behavior, as I already said, will lead to dismissal from the event. The competitor is removed from the tournament in all disciplines and will not receive any medals, ranking points, or similar. During the fighting time, any form of unsportsmanlike behavior leads to Hansoku-make, with the addition of removal from the event. Outside the fighting time, this is normal unsportsmanlike behavior, like it always was. So we just have a sign for it. It's the same as in Ju-Jitsu. It applies to both disciplinary and technical fouls. And the addition is that for disciplinary fouls, you are announced. It is announced through the PA system in the hall, so the mat heads are alerted to it. For severe technical fouls, we added bare hand strangulation and removed compression of the kidneys in guard. This is somewhat new. For the adults, it's allowed. For the U16 and younger, it is, as I already mentioned, Ju-Jitsu. I have a question from the chat. Third Shido for the same foul is Ju-Jitsu or not? If yes, how does it scores? The third Shido, so if you have passivity, 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 it doesn't matter which part, you have 2 times Shido, 1 time Ju-Jitsu is 5 points. Shido, Shido, Ju-Jitsu. So 2 times Shido, 1 point each. Third time is Ju-Jitsu, 3 points, makes 5 points. For the severe disciplinary fouls, Hansukumake, it must be discussed with the head referee or referee director, or just call central referee. For the disciplinary fouls, it is sufficient if all of the referees involved in a match agree. If you deem it noteworthy or if you're uncertain, you can always ask the head referee, referee director to review the footage together with you. This is an option you have to take. The head referee or referee director cannot order or give you instructions on how to handle the situation. So he cannot overrule you. So if I'm the head referee of the event and the 3 referees decide, I cannot go there and say, no, this is not severe disciplinary foul. You have to take that back. That is not possible. But if you're uncertain and want my honest opinion, I can go there. I can tell you, in my opinion, it is this and that, but it is your job to make up the decision. For injury, accident, or illness, we have one addition. While injury time is running, an uninjured competitor should be at least 2 meters away from the injured competitor and face away from their coaches, from their own coach as well. So if your opponent is injured, this should not be a time where you get coached. This is the injured athlete should have their injury time, and the uninjured competitor should stand away from the injured competitor and also not face their coaches. I think, yeah, we have some plans for 2023. We want to have a small social media presence where we publish videos on Instagram and Facebook. For this, I hope I get some videos sent to me. I will try to make one video every 2 weeks where I review a video completely, then analyze it, insert graphically the passages of the rule book that apply, and give a verdict on what should happen. I will not criticize the referee in the video. I will my biggest hope is that you don't see the referee on the video, but I will review any footage that is in good quality. So if you find something from the World Championship, for example, that has open question marks to it, you can send snippets of that to me. I will not make videos of that are sent to me in where the only issue is I think the referee did this and this bad. Please confirm to me that the referee was unfair to me. I will not do this because that is I want to educate people and not lay blame on anyone. So this should be purely educational footage. So if you have some footage where you think this or that rule could apply, these are things I will be looking for. We have a WhatsApp group. I will post the link in the chat. We have a WhatsApp group where you can join, where you can post videos. I will be not as not be going into as much detail as I will go into the videos, but I will still answer questions if there are any. And also, I plan to digitalize and standardize the referee education. And we have a new fighting working group which I will coordinate, and the first meeting will probably be January to February. I have got a few questions in chat. So the first one was from Nina, I think. Gestury of the referee for 3-point ippon in part 1. It's the same as 3-point ippon in part 2 or part 3. It is this. I cannot stretch my hand fully like this. You won't see it, but 3 fingers and hand is stretched out. And from Fabio, we have question. Rulebook states players with 6 fouls are DQ'd, Hansukumake, right? Does this work in any sort of fouls, like 6 different types of Shido, or only with double Chui? No, this works with any kind of Shido. So you can have 6 different Shidos. You can have 2 times 3 different Shidos. Like I said, you can have 2 times going out, 2 times low kick, 2 times passivity. You can have them fully different. You can have Shido for low kick, Shido for going out, and then Shido 2 times Shido for passivity, and the 3rd time is also passivity, which is 4 Shidos and 1 Chui, which is 7 points. So 7 points is more than 6, which will also disqualify you. These rules will be in the Asian Championship, yes, because we start using these rules at January 1st, 2023, and since February is after January, we will use it at the Asian Championship. So that is it from my part. So we can have questions and answers. We already had one question to go back to this slide. So Claudia, if you can unmute everyone. Or
I have allowed now everyone to unmute themselves. So they are now able to unmute themselves if they want to and ask the questions. And I think there was exactly the question to explain the engagements again. And there was one question that I saw about the 3-point ippon for the under 16. So these are the 2 questions I saw now. So maybe you can start with these.
there, who wanted to know something about this? You can unmute yourself and ask whatever question you had.
I had a question. The dojime on the ground, it was normally a Shido, wasn't it?
Dojime is with the, no, this is Ryote. What is Dojime?
Dojime is kidney lock.
Kidney lock. No, this is allowed for adults and Chui for under 16. Before it was Hansukumake, I think.
Tapos in Newasa.
What?
In fighting, I thought it was Shido.
It might have been Shido before, but yeah, we have deemed it to be more than Shido for the under 16-year-olds because it can lead to pretty severe pain. And for the adults, fighting system only was Shido before. Yes.
So now it's allowed.
For the adult, yes, for the adults.
And for the under 16, it's now a Chu.
Yes.
Clear. Thank you.
Raffaele, you wanted to ask something, or you just wanted to see the slide? I'm sorry, Raffaele, we only hear static from you, so maybe you can type your question. We have a question in the chat. Full Ippon should be 1, 2, 3 parts or any 2 parts? No, 3 parts. Part 1, part 2, part 3.
There was, I think, one question about the part 1 Ippon with the 3 points, so the kick to the head, for the under 16. So they are also then not touching, I assume.
Exactly. So for the under 16, they are allowed to kick to the head, but they have to have at least 1 breadth of a hand in distance for it to be an Ippon, and it must also be unblocked. So if they are touching, you have to decide, did they go into the kick with the head and moved into it? Is it Mubobi, or is it hard contact Chui? So these are the two possibilities. Any more questions?
Yes, if I do Hurricane Uchi or Haitu Uchi jumping, so it only can be Vasari because it's not in a stable way. Is it correct?
That depends. I'd say that depends. If you have like the Superman punch where you stabilize yourself by pushing down the opponent's guard and then go over the guard, I would consider this still an Ippon. If you're moving while jumping, so if you're like running in and jumping forward, that would be bordering on uncontrolled. Or if you're jumping sideways, then I would say it is uncontrolled in any case. But as long as you are in control and you are in dynamic balance and control. So you land stably and you have some sense of, how should I put this? It's always easier to explain when you're on a tatami. Like if you move in a controlled way and you have control over your movement and it is not driven by the opponent, or you are in a way that where you cannot stop your direction. So if you're moving sideways or in one direction, you are not in control of the movement. If you're just trying to gain some height to get over your opponent's guard, the hand guard, not the feet guard on the ground, then it's I would consider it in control.
So you don't have to have necessarily your feet on the tatami to get an Ippon. Is it correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So there were some, Kostas had a question and Michelle had a question. I assume the rules.
Excuse me, yes, you already answered my question.
Okay.
But anyway, do you have any cooperation with, the sport data for the next championship? So everything with 3-point Ippon will be ready?
I have told it to Peter, and I hope he is making everything ready.
It's in progress. Yeah, it's in progress. So no worries. It should be ready before the first competition.
Yes, Brigitte, we already have the right rules uploaded. So everyone who downloaded them, I think before Tuesday or Wednesday last week, should get the new version. But it has been updated sometime last week.
Patrick.
Yes.
I ask about the Haito. How is your vision about that? In my opinion, there are two ways of making the Haito in the competition. You have the high toe from the normal stand, the arm comes from the back. They apply high toe to the head, for example. And you have the situation, they stay in the fighting and they use the front arm to do a very quick high toe to the head. In my opinion, the second one, when you stay and you wait and you make a very small movement to the head, it could never be an ippon because it's just a touch to the head, while the one from the back is a real high toe. How do you see this? Because for me, the second one could be maximum Rosari.
For me, it's both possible because you can also give for the Kisametsuki, you can also give ippon. So as long as everything applies, it's not blocked, it's not harder than semi-contact, but touches, it's with good dynamic balance and control. For me, it is ippon. Same as it rarely happens because you have to be very close to the opponent and the opponent must have a bad reaction on it.
Very much. It happens very much. And especially in the rules we had, they are just waiting. They make a small high toe, they get an ippon and the other one get nothing. You know, they are waiting for a yaku. They do quick to the head. And in my opinion, it's a little bit, yeah, how you say, destroying the part one phase, in my opinion.
I have seen, I think there's one Swedish competitor who does the front hand high toe very much. And I think it was the Danish who adapted very well. They always had the guard up on the front hand and were ready to block. And it pretty much always ran into the block and the counter was very much in. So in my opinion, this is then your job to prepare your athletes. Look, this guy is always doing it. Have your hand right there. He will punch into it. And with the counter, you can get your ippon. So I think
not to get too much into the details with referees and stuff like that, because too often there's point given what is not points, but this is not a discussion. Just in my way, in my vision, a high toe should come from the back and not from the front. But we just disagree in that point then.
Then we disagree here. So we have some questions in the chat. If the athlete repeats the same mistake, for example, grip and punch, you get Shido twice or Shido then Chui. You get Shido twice, the third time is Chui. In a steady motion, jump atemi is okay for ippon. Yes, as I said, if you, yes, and advancing motion, that if opponents can be stopped, just Wasari. Advancing motion or circular motion while jumping is something between maximum Vasari and uncontrolled. That is a determination you have to make in the situation, but I don't know. I don't know if the Superman punch is really a term where you hit down on the opponent's guard, then jump upwards and make an atemi over the guard you just block downwards. I don't know if Superman punch is just something we use in our dojo or if this is really a term that is internationally used. But a punch like this, I would say, is an ippon because you are in control of your movement. And if you're in a advancing motion, you are not anymore really in control. If red gets ippon 3 points in part 2, match referee says mate and start over from part 1. Exactly. Who will count the points for penalties, and will there be a signal from the table referee that there's a 6 penalty points? Normally the system should recognize it automatically like it does in Newaza. So if the penalty marker is full, it should stop the fight. But there is no special signal. you just, if you're a table referee or a video referee, you just give a mate or stop the fight and ask or tell the match referee that there are always that there are already 6 penalty points. Strangling the opponent with bare hands, yes, that is correct, Tessa. It used to be Shido, is now Hansukumake. When we have a system, okay, but when we have you mean what do you do to signal to the match referee that there is that there are already 6 penalties?
Hansokumake from the 6 Shido.
This is the sign you can use. You can tell him to stop the fight and then indicate red or blue if he's not aware.
I think there's one question that we overlooked. So if an athlete repeats the same mistake, for example, a given punch, will they get 2 Shidos or will they get a Shido and a Chui?
I already answered that, but I can do it again.
Sorry.
If you repeat the same mistake or fall multiple times, it's the first 2 times is Shido, the 3rd time is Chui, and the 4th time is Hansukumake because it's the 2nd Chui and you already have 5 points of penalty. Are there any more questions? Can a warning be given to the athlete that already accumulated 5 Shidos? I would say it depends on the level of competition. In a world championship or a continental championship, I would not warn any athletes. If you're doing a newcomer tournament that does not give any rating points to JJIF, you can also loosen the restriction a bit and say, okay, we allow 7 points or 8 points. You can warn your competitors. That's the discretion of the match referee and the people running the tournament. If you say, okay, those people don't use going out as a tactical means, we allow them more Shidos because the Shido penalties, they don't use it tactically. This is a newcomer tournament. Then you can go ahead and say, okay, we only make a disqualification after the 8th penalty point. So nothing changes for challenge procedures, correct? Yes, this is correct because these are not part of the fighting rules. Those are part of the sporting code. So Claudia will tell you about it when she tells you about the new sporting code, if there are any changes.
But I can already spoil, there is no changes in the challenge procedure.
Nuvin asked, Vasari is awarded for an attempt that satisfies all 3 criteria but is partially blocked by an opponent, or an attempt that satisfies 2 of the 3 criteria but is not blocked. Correct. This means that there can be a score without touching, i.e. if only Hikite, Hikiashi, and good, yes. The rules now say further B and C are not standalone. They mean nothing without A.
If I may, Patrick, explain myself.
Yes, of course.
I think it's just a language to clarify the way it's drafted now, because you have 3 A, B, and C to have a Nippon. That is plus touch, Ikite, Ikashi, and good dynamic and balance.
Yes.
Further down, when we are describing what Wasari is, okay, we agree that if it's partially blocked, it's Wasari. But then when we are saying any two of the above three will also give Vasari, I think the language has to be clarified, because this, if we interpret it this way, it would mean that only B and C can give a Vasari without A, that is without a touch. I think it should be A or and either B or C. Otherwise, otherwise it means with good Ikite Ikashi and with dynamic, you are having a Wasari without the punch touching. So I think it should A should always be there. That is, the punch should touch, or and either A or B. Then it's 2 out of the 3, but always the touch should be there.
I
think this is the intention. Perhaps this is the language which.
The problem is the intention was also to allow for the points essentially that are ippons for the under 16s that are like this far away. If they are for the adults with good hikite, hikiashi, and a good balance, dynamic, and control, that they are then given a Vasari. They are not meant. They're not meant for Atimis that are this far away from the opponent. It is meant that if B and C apply, it is not blocked, and you are just missing 4-5 centimeters. Then you should also get a Vasari. That was the intention. But I agree with you that we need to precise this in the next iteration, because as it is stated now, it also means that an Atemi that is this far away should be a Vasari.
Yeah,
Patrick.
Yes,
Patrick. I think if you give the point at that when there is no touching, it must not be blocked. I think that is the question of the guy.
No, we have an understanding. It is about the problem is that the way it is phrased now, there is no difference if there is this much distance or this much distance for an unblocked Atemi that is in good dynamic balance and control, as well as with hikite and hikiashi. But the intention of the rule was if you have this much distance, it should be Vasari, but if you have this much distance, it should be nothing.
Then it should be clarified. Personally, I think that there should always be the touching, but that's a personal opinion, and of course we can disagree on that. There should always be the touching, even for be it Vasari or Ippon, because then it becomes difficult to judge, as you say, what distance should there be between the opponent and the punch for there to be Vasari. But if this is a decision that if there can be a Vasari even without touching, then it has to be very clarified well what kind of distance we are talking about.
I have another question. Under 16 performs Washi or Uramawashi to the head without touching. It is Ippon's 3 points. Yes, exactly. So if they are in good dynamic balance and control and it is performed hikite or hikiashi, this is Ippon 3 points. You can join the WhatsApp group. I will check in a few minutes. I will post the link in here and check in a few minutes if I can do something about that. How may we use the pictures from the rule book only for educational purposes or also on national websites? I can't say 100% because the rights the rights belong to the JJIF because they have paid for the pictures. But we have a copy that is translatable. So you on the one hand side you have the English text, and on the other side, you have blank spaces that can be filled out. So you can use that in any case for a translation of the rulebook. For the pictures, you would have to, I don't know, Claudia, who is responsible for copyright issues in JJIF?
I would just say, Tessa, send an email to mail@jjif.org with the question where you want to use it, and then we can discuss on what is the purpose. So I think if it's an explanation picture on the website for the rules, I would assume that there are no problems, but if you, I don't know, want to sell something, there might be problems. So I think it's the easiest if you just send an email to mail@jjif.org and then how you want to use it, and we can decide on the situation. I think this is the easiest.
For adults and U18, the kick or punch to the head must be with light contact for scoring. Just to clarify, yes. We have changed the term semi-contact to light contact because some English-speaking natives said semi-contact would mean half the force that is possible to use. So if you have the +94 category, half the force they could use would still kill everyone else probably. And that a better term would be light contact. So we are a light contact discipline. Because we don't use half the force, we use light contact. So if this seems new to you, it is what we always intended to mean. Not hit your opponent with half of what you could hit him with, just light contact, skin touch, as it was also referred to.
So I'm also looking a bit at the time. I don't see any other questions at the moment. I don't know if you see one more.
No, I just want to copy the link again.
Perfect. So you copy the link in the WhatsApp group, and then I already want to thank you, of course, for your time and the effort that you put in preparing. And as said in the beginning, this is the first webinar of a larger series. So we will have a next webinar already, well, next year on January 26th with Michel van Rijt, and he will explain us about the contact rules for 2023. So another rule webinar, again, the same time, so 1600 Central European time. We will again send also the links out. And so if you like this webinar, you hopefully also like the next webinar. And then, yeah, thank you all for your time. And if you have missed it, or if you know someone that missed it, as said, we will set the recordings online on YouTube and eventually on Facebook. And then, yeah, for those that are in Europe, have a nice evening. For those that are in Central America, have a nice day. And for those in Asia, have a good night. And Africa is also a nice evening. Not forget them.
So I posted the link again for you to join the WhatsApp group. So if you're interested in posing questions, receiving answers, or yeah, discussing situations, you may use it to join. And I hope to see you all soon.